Good evening and welcome to this quick session on accelerating your FP&A career path, right? So today we'll be discussing a lot about FP&A, some different format, some different experiments that we'll conduct about FP&A, and we'll learn more as we progress in this session. So for the next 60 odd minutes, I would urge everybody to please get rid of all the distractions and completely focus on what we are covering here today. Okay, a little bit about us to begin with. My name is Dhaval Parvatikar. I'm a qualified chartered accountant. I've also got executive management program from Indian Institute of Management, Ahmedabad. Over the past 16 years, I've worked in various industries like oil and gas, software, advertising, and PR services. I've served as a CFO and a finance leader in India and in the Middle East. I'm now the co-founder and lead faculty at FP&A Professionals Institute, which we had established at the end of 2023. So we are more than a year-old organization now. I'm extremely enthusiastic about helping finance professionals get to their next level. So that's what makes me, love mentoring and coaching and training. So I've trained more than 5,000 professionals on various topics like finance leadership, FP&A, CFO coaching programs, and much more. So I'm happy to partner here with Asif Masani, who's my partner and co-founder at FP&A Professionals Institute. Asif, a quick introduction from your end.
Yeah, thank you, Dhaval. So quickly about me, I have spent more than now 15 years in finance and FP&A. I started working in audit back in 2009, 2010. Worked in it for, I think, three and a half years, and then decided, okay, this is not something that I want to do for my career. Moved into FP&A somewhere in 2012, 2013, and then since then have been working in FP&A in different roles across different industries. So I worked in banking, pharma. Most recently, I've spent about 4 years in edtech industry. So that is a little bit about me. I've also written along the way. Once I started my edtech experience, I got really interested in writing. So I wrote a couple of books on FP&A. So you can see that on the screen and in my background. Those are especially for people, beginners in FP&A who are wanting to get into FP&A roles, preparing for interviews and needing the right guidance to be able to do that. So that is a little bit about me. What I'll also do is I'll talk a little bit more on FPI. So just so that you know how and what we have been doing over the last, although we have started as an institute end of 2023, we have been working on FP&A trainings. I think Dhaval has been working before me. So he started this FP&A Foundations program, which is the most popular FP&A course, one of the most popular FP&A course on Udemy. 2,000 people have taken that program. So he did that, started that back in 2018. And I never met Dhaval until 2021, end of 2021, beginning of 2022. That's when my book, All About FP&A, was published somewhere in mid of 2022. And a lot of people started requesting me about the FP&A programs, courses, and I thought it'll be good to collaborate and reach out to Dhaval and do this together since both of us were in full-time jobs. So we started this part-time in 2022 and did that for a year and a half on Saturdays, Sundays, and then eventually decided this is something that we want to get into full-time. End of 2023, I decided to quit my full-time role, and then we started FP&A Professionals Institute, which across the last 3 years, we have trained more than 3,500 students across the different programs that you see. And two of our flagship FP&A programs have been FP&A Masterclass and CGFPA, which we will talk a little bit more about today later once we are towards the end of the webinar.
Fantastic. So while Asif and I are gifted with these baby faces, combined, we have about 2.5 decades of experience, specifically in FP&A. And one thing that we share in common is that we love helping finance professionals get to their next level and get better at FP&A. So Asif, you want to talk about the podcast as well?
Yes. So we've been very fortunate because of the books that we've written and the following that we have on LinkedIn. We've been fortunate enough to have conversations with some of the top FP&A experts across the world, from US, Europe, Middle East. So all that experience that we've gathered over the last 3 years, we are trying to bring that in our books, programs, and courses.
That's amazing. So I've personally conducted 10 CFO events in the Middle East. I personally know more than 200 plus CFOs, and we are building those connections. And more than a dozen of them are now on the advisory board of FPI, helping us curate programs which are more relevant and industry specific as well. So that has been our background. Hope that excites you all enough to stay till the end of this session. So what are we going to cover today? A quick summary of what we are going to cover today. So we'll start by understanding the FP&A world. Okay, not theoretical, but in fact, all of you will get a chance to become an actor today. I'm sure all of you love movies, but today you'll get a chance to become an actor. So get ready to be a little bit more active with the questions and your responses in the chat box. We'll explain how FP&A acts as a bridge between the management and the various business teams in the organization, and why FP&A enjoys this unique position of sitting very close to the CFO and the senior business leaders in the company. Then how do you prepare for FP&A roles? You may or may not have worked in FP&A before. So how do you prepare for FP&A roles, and what are some of the things that you can leverage which are already there in your career, and how do you kind of prepare for that? And we'll then briefly touch about the certification program for FP&A that FPI has launched. So that is the roadmap. Like I said, it's going to be an active session, so all of you will be required to be very participative. So this is going to be a different kind of a webinar where it's not just me who will be doing the talking. What I want you guys to do is become an FP&A leader, act like an FP&A leader, and then participate in the questions, in the discussions that I'm asking. You can type your responses in the chat box, or even feel free to unmute yourselves. Since we have only a small group of about 10, 12 people now in the webinar, so you can also unmute yourself or raise your hands, and then we can bring you on stage as well. Okay, so this is going to be, like I said, it's going to be a different kind of a webinar, so where we require you to be participative. So I hope all of you are excited. So let's get started. Okay. So how does it feel like to work in FP&A? So we'll understand this about how is it like to work in FP&A, what are some of the challenges, what are some of the, how does a typical day look like? So we'll try and understand this with a quick case study that is available on your screen. So let me read this case study out for you, and then we will get into some level of discussions. Okay, so here is a case study. Titan is an FMCG company with a manufacturing plant on the outskirts of Mumbai. Primarily, the company sells three main groups of products: watches, jewelry, and eyewear. There are three divisions in the company: watches, jewelry, and eyewear. The products are sold in India as well as some Middle Eastern and African markets. So there are domestic sales, also there are export sales. The business will now be structured as three business units: watches, jewelry, and eyewear. Each of the business units will be headed by a business unit head who will be responsible for the overall performance of the business unit. So there's a business unit lead who reports to the CEO of the company. The entire hierarchy of the organization is comprised of the said business units. The majority of the staff are mapped to a single business unit, and other common staff, like the senior management and some support staff, will continue to be at the corporate level. So most of the staff in the company are mapped to these respective business units, and some common staff, like the senior management, the CEO, the CIO, the CTO, CFO, and some HR head, all of these people are support staff. They will be at the corporate level or at the headquarter level. You are lead at Titan to support the CFO. Your team consists of FP&A manager and two FP&A analysts in each team. So three business units: watches, jewelry, and eyewear. Each business unit has a BU FP&A manager, and then there are a couple of analysts supporting that business unit FP&A manager. So that is a team structure that you have under you. The CEO, CFO, and senior business leaders in the company have a few questions. As an FP&A lead, you are required to work with your team to develop reports that will answer some of these questions. Okay, so have everybody got the context? You all are now getting a chance to become an actor, get into the character of becoming an FP&A lead, okay, and help the company develop certain reports and then answer certain questions that the CFO is asking. So what I'm now going to do is, let me just quickly share my screen. Okay, so what you will now be required to do is, I want you guys to respond either in the chat box or raise your hands and then unmute yourself. So what would you analyze in this company, right? Or what questions would you ask to understand the performance of the business as a new FP&A lead, right? So you've joined as an FP&A lead, right? And understand the structure of the company. Okay, now you need to understand how the business is performing and then feedback that information to the CFO or to the CEO. So how would you analyze, and what are some of the questions that you would ask to understand the performance of the business? Okay, I will need some responses in the chat box, or you can unmute yourself and then mention as well. So let me note them down, whatever is coming in the chat box. Okay, Let me just take this chat box a little bit aside. Yeah.
I can
Okay, so
I can read
yeah,
it out if you want. Anirban says sales for 12 months by geo, vertical, and category.
by geo, vertical, and category. Fantastic. That's a great response. What else? What else will you ask to understand about the performance of the business as an FP&A lead? Get into the character now. Come on. Headcount assignment by 3 business units. Headcount assignment. I'm not sure what you mean by assignment. I'll just note it down. Assignment by 3 business units. Okay.
What about others? You can type your responses in the chat box. It's not rocket science. You can apply whatever
Yeah,
you
I mean, don't
feel.
Google or chat GPT this. Go by your instinct. Get into the character. You are the FP&A lead of this company. Okay, more responses. Come on, some more responses. How will you understand the performance of this business? Okay, so sales is one aspect. What else would you look at? Okay, so Anirban is again saying historical performance of the business. Okay,
There's one more
historical
timer which says ratio analysis year on year.
ratio analysis. Fantastic. Okay, we'll look at operational ratios, liquidity ratios, performance ratios, right? Profitability of the firm. Fantastic. So finally, we are reaching profitability. So we started with sales, and now we are reaching at profitability of the firm.
One more.
Horizontal, yeah, horizontal and vertical analysis. Interesting. So for those of you who don't know what is horizontal and vertical analysis, horizontal is year-on-year comparison. Vertical analysis, where you are comparing a certain expense as a percentage of sales or as a percentage of some base, right? So horizontal and vertical analysis. Okay, fantastic. Capital efficiency. Okay, let me just add that as ratio capital efficiency. Okay, awesome. Great. So you said profitability. So are there anything else that we can add to profitability? Do we look at only company level profitability, or is there a scope to look at some other level profitability as well? Revenue and profit margin. Okay, so revenue is already covered in the sales. Profit margin is already covered in profitability. Revenue growth. Okay, that's a good option. So let me just add revenue growth. Customer
Related to Apex and Capex, basically Apex,
OPEX.
direct and indirect.
Okay, OPEX and CAPEX. Fine. OPEX, CAPEX. Okay. Customer segmentation. Again, Anirban has deep experience in revenue, I guess. He's getting into customer segmentation, profitable segments versus other segments. So I will just say BU profitability. Okay. Business unit profitability, business unit wise analysis, right? All of these things. Okay, fantastic. So I think we got some great responses. So let's quickly move forward and see what is the next step in store for us. We are all actors, right? So we are all FP&A leads now. Let us look at some of the questions from the CFO. Okay. And now we have to act as an FP&A lead and understand which report will answer these questions from the CFO. Okay. Which report will answer these questions from the CFO? Again, you can type your responses in the chat box. We'll quickly take your responses in 30 seconds and then move to the next topic. So the first question that the CFO is asking is, how have the watches, jewelry, and eyewear business units performed in terms of revenue, margin, and cost efficiencies compared to the last year? So which report do you think will answer this question? You are the FP&A lead. I'm sure you must be preparing some report to answer these questions that the CFO is posing. MIS, what a great answer, isn't it? It's so general. MIS can be a pack of 20 Excel sheets, right? MIS can be a pack of 30 Excel sheets. It can be an entire reporting pack. So MIS is a little bit generic, but you are on the right track. I wouldn't say it's wrong. Okay. Vertical analysis year on year. Okay. Okay. So P&L report, your business unit wise P&L report, your year on year financial review, right? All of it comes from your MIS, all of it comes from your management report, right? But basically your business unit wise P&L report will answer the performance of how each of these business units are doing in the business. Okay. Second question from the CFO. Given our expansion in the Middle East and Africa, are we meeting our sales growth targets in those markets? And how does FX volatility impact our net revenue there? So what report would tell us this? Of course, it will be part of your MIS, but what report or what working will answer this question?
Maybe actual versus forecast analysis report.
Actual versus forecast. Okay. But you basically need a report that explains to you the difference between domestic and export sales, isn't it? So we need a regional sales performance report to understand how are we doing in the Middle East, how are we doing in Africa, what is the FX impact? What is the margin by market? What is the contribution of each of these markets to the overall profitability? Yes, Anirban says sales forecast, actual versus forecast by geography, right? That's right. Let's move to the next question that the CFO is asking. Watches and jewelry have historically been our cash cows. Are they still carrying the company, or is eyewear now a meaningful contributor? How do we answer this? Again, probably sorry. Go on, Nankish.
Sales trend analysis of different products.
Sales trend analysis of watches, sales trend analysis of each of these business units. Again, something to do with the business unit profitability report or BU contribution margin report. Mix profitability mix, right? How much out of our total profit of, let's say, $10 million? What is the mix? How much is it coming from jewelry? How much is it coming from eyewear? How much is it coming from watches, right? So contribution margin, products mix profitability. Again, these are not absolute reports, but these could be part of that report that will answer the questions that the CFO is posing. Okay. All of these may not necessarily be an independent report. They might be part of a same reporting pack or a management reporting pack that the company is preparing. And if your company is structured business unit wise, then typically the BU finance team will prepare and submit it to the corporate finance team. If your company is structured region wise, then the regional finance team will prepare and submit it to the corporate, right? Depending on how your company is structured and the complexity of the business, each of these subcomponents in the business will be preparing various reports to understand and emphasize on the performance of that particular subcomponent. So here's another question from the CFO. We expected SG&A efficiency gains post restructuring. Are our corporate overheads declining as a percentage of revenue? Okay, something again to do with vertical analysis. You're taking out your SG&A expenses, that is your selling, general and administration expenses, as a percentage of revenue, and comparing across various years, across probably last 2-3 years, to see, right? To see if which of the business units are actually more efficient in terms of SG&A, right? Again, SG&A cost trend analysis. You'll also look at the corporate overheads versus the BU level overheads, right? And how are they doing as a percentage of sales? Your SG&A as a percentage of sales in the BU, as well as SG&A as a percentage of sales in your corporate P&L as well. Right? So you look at all these different kind of analysis, and these are some of the examples of the reports or the workings that help answer the question on performance of the business, right? Now, again, these are only some examples, but there could be a number of reports, a number of questions that might be coming from the CFO, the business unit lead, the CEO, the marketing director, the HR head, right? And FP&A team has to come up with all of these reports, understand the performance of the business, okay, and provide them to these senior business leaders from time to time, okay? Now, you answered all these questions. You may or may not have worked in FP&A before, okay? But a large part of these questions were very much in commercial in nature, right? And they were very commonsensical in nature, right? So what did you observe in these kind of questions? Let me tell you a couple of observations, okay? One, they have nothing to do with your accounting standards or IFRS or any of your accounting gaps, okay? Two, they are more to manage the internal performance of the business than external reporting. Financial statements, notes to accounts, your internal statutory audit, SOX audit, all of these things are more external facing to help the investors and the shareholders to understand the performance of the business. But when you are within the company, your business unit finance reports, right? Your sales analysis, your margin contribution analysis, your budgeting, forecasting, management reporting, scenario planning, sensitivity analysis, seasonality and trends, all of these things are more internal facing. And that is what you require to manage the performance of the business. Okay. And most of the accounting qualifications out there, okay, for no fault of theirs, right? They are focused on compliance oriented aspects, which is your financial statements, your notes to accounts, your IFRS, your financial reporting, direct and indirect taxes, your statutory compliances, and other regulatory compliances. Okay. But what you I hope you got some small taste of how is it like to work in FP&A. What are the questions that might come to you? How do you analyze the performance of the business? And then go back to the CFO or CEO or senior business leaders in the company to support them in their decision making. right? So that is why we always say that FP&A acts as a bridge between the senior management and various teams in the company, in the business. Okay. And the main role of FP&A is to collect inputs and updates at regular intervals from various business teams and provide reports and insights to them on different occasions. It could be monthly, it could be weekly, it could be fortnightly, it could be quarterly, whatever the case might be. Okay. For example, from HR teams, you will collaborate with HR team to understand and discuss about workforce planning, headcount forecasting, how many people to hire, when to hire, how much increments to give, when to give, what are the increment cycles, what is the impact, incentives, benefits, bonuses, all of these things you will be planning with your HR team. With the sales team, you will be planning all about revenue forecasting, right? Pipeline analysis, which are your new customers, what are the new product launches, gross margins, KPIs, incentives, sales commissions, all of these things are being discussed with the sales team. With the marketing team, you will try and understand about the marketing spends, campaign performances, marketing budget allocation, return on ad spends, how do you optimize marketing spends? All of those things are discussed with marketing team. Okay? With production and operations, you are discussing about capacity planning, utilization, productivity ratio, yield ratio, efficiency, measures to optimize your overheads, your factory overheads, your operational overheads, right? All of these things you will be discussing with the production and operations team. Then comes supply chain, your inventory management, your working capital optimization, freight cost analysis, make versus buy, right? All of these different things you will be discussing with the supply chain team. So now you understand that FP&A team acts as a bridge between the different business teams and is responsible for providing reports and insights to the CFO and to the senior business leaders in the company so that they can take informed financial decisions. Okay. The size and structure and complexity of the company, you may not have access to all of these functions. Okay. For example, one of my friends works with a large consumer products company in India, and he works in a department called marketing finance. And that company probably has about $500 million of marketing budget every year to be spent. And there's a team of 4 people, 4 qualified senior chartered accountants who take care of only these marketing spends. They understand nothing but just the performance of the marketing function of that particular company, right? So if you're in a small or a medium enterprise, you get to work in broad range of functions or broad range of departments. Okay. But if you're in a large, complex kind of a business, you might be looking at only factory overheads. You might be looking at only or SG&A. You might be looking at only revenue budgeting or revenue forecasting, right? So depending on the complexity of the business, you will be placed in different departments as well. And if you're lucky, or if you might be at the corporate FP&A kind of a team, then you may get to look at all the departments and collectively look at the organization as a whole. So that is how the FP&A teams work, and they act as a bridge between different stakeholders in the company. I hope this is giving you a good taste of how FP&A team looks like, or working in FP&A looks like. Now that we have a little bit of understanding of what is FP&A, how it is not connected with your accounting qualification, right? How can we prepare for FP&A roles? Now, what are some of the things that we can tap into from our own experience, from our own qualifications, that will help us prepare for FP&A roles? First thing is leverage your sector experience. If you want to move from an accounting department or a compliance-oriented function to FP&A role, okay, try and leverage your sector experience. If you have worked in an audit department of an insurance company, then try for an FP&A role of an insurance company or a related industry to insurance, right? If you worked in an FP&A or let's say an audit team of or an accounts team of an automotive company, then look at FP&A role in an automotive company or any auto components or any of the allied industries as well. So try and leverage your sector experience, because it's not just the fact that you should be aware of budgeting, forecasting, and Power BI or all of these things, right? So that is only one of the aspects. But people look for sector experience as well, right? And if I am a CFO, let's say of a software company, I want to hire an FP&A manager in my company, the easiest thing for me to do is to try and look for somebody from a software company. Why should I hire somebody from outside of the industry, train them, help them understand how software industry works, and then coach them on FP&A, and then give them a task, right? So probably it'll take 12 months for me. By that time, probably I'll get bored, or the person who I'm hiring will get bored of this, right? So try and leverage your sector experience to some. Even in your compliance-oriented roles, you may have got a chance to study a lot of management reports. You may have got a chance to work on analytical stuff. Bring that to the forefront of your resume. Okay. Even in your internal audit role, even in your accounts role, right? You may have done a lot of analysis while computing accruals. You may have done a lot of analysis while auditing a certain section of the company, right? Bring that analysis to the forefront of your resume, probably in the very first half page of your resume. Yeah. And whenever you get a chance, try and study management reports within the company. Make friends with other department, make friends with FP&A department, understand how an MIS is built, understand how a management report is built, and try and study them, try and study that information as whenever you get a chance. Yeah. Make compliance your bridge. Right. There could be many companies who are looking for a blended finance role. Okay. Who are looking for a person who can do a little bit of compliance as well and commercial aspects as well. So maybe that's your best bet. Suddenly, if you try and apply for FP&A role in a very large company with no prior FP&A experience, suddenly you can't become a FP&A manager at a Unilever if you've never worked in an FP&A. So try and make compliance your bridge and move over to the other side or in a blended role, and then try and build from there to get into a core FP&A kind of a role. Yeah. Knowing visualization tools like a Power BI or a Tableau can be a plus, although not an absolute must. Okay, but knowing these tools can be beneficial, right? So people are looking for this, companies are looking for these kind of tools. However, knowing these tools is not a substitute for your conceptual knowledge. Okay, I know Power BI, but I don't understand the steps in forecasting. Sorry, you may not get an FP&A role, right? So it's not a substitute for your conceptual understanding of how core topics like budgeting, forecasting, management reporting works. But knowing Power BI and Tableau can give you an added advantage of getting better at your job, getting better at your FP&A role as well. Create a reason with the qualification. If your current qualification is too compliance heavy, right, then create some other qualification or supplement it with some analysis oriented qualification, like a financial modeling certification or a FP&A certification, or let's say a business certification or a strategy oriented certification, depending on where you are in your career. And that reason of this qualification will generate some keywords which you can use on your resume. Let's say if I complete a certification in FP&A, I would probably start by saying qualified accountant and certified FP&A professional with 10 years of experience in the areas of so and so, having exposure to industries like oil and gas, software, blah, blah, blah. Yeah. Now, in the very first 2-3 sentences of my profile, in the very first half page of my resume, I have sprinkled enough keywords, at least I'll get a call. If you put all your core experience or analysis experience probably on the second page of your resume, recruiters don't have the time and they're HR folks, right? So don't expect your resume to be first read by a finance profession, right? So make sure that you bring all your analysis heavy qualifications or exercises or experiences to the forefront of your resume, the very first half page of your resume. That will increase your chances of getting a call for roles which are either related to FP&A or business finance. Okay. Now, these are some of the things that you can leverage or tap into your own experience for preparing for FP&A roles as well. Now, we have spoken to dozens of CFOs. I told you that I am personally connected with more than 200 CFOs, and based on what we have spoken to them, based on a lot of surveys that we have done with them, we have identified 5 critical skills that CFOs today are looking for. What are those skill sets? First is knowing core FP&A concepts. There's no substitute for this, right? Knowing how does a budgeting is prepared, how is the forecasting prepared, what are the different types of forecasting techniques, management reporting. All of these things are core FP&A concepts that one is looking for, or the CFOs are looking for. Second is financial modeling. Financial modeling, again, specific to FP&A. Not every CFO is looking for valuation expertise. Not every CFO is looking for some complex financial model to be built, right? Simple financial modeling specific to FP&A to evaluate certain business decisions. That is what CFOs are looking for. Data storytelling. It is not only important to analyze, but how will you communicate this analysis to the business teams? That is even more important, right? So data storytelling is a way how effectively you can communicate your story or the reason for a certain variance or a reason for a certain analysis to your non-finance teams and how easily they understand it. Business partnering, right? All the CFOs are talking today about business partnering, which means that you need to go one step ahead to not only understand analysis and numbers, you also need to go ahead and understand how the business operates. Business acumen. How do you build relationship with the business teams? How do you build relationship with cross-functional teams? All of those things are part of business partnering, so much to an extent that today finance teams are expected to be a coach for the business team, right? That's what business partnering is all about. And then, of course, last but not the least, AI skills in finance, right? AI is everywhere now. AI has become part of our routine already, right? So what are some of the tools and developments that are happening in AI that can help in finance and FP&A? So these are the core 5 skill sets that CFOs are looking for in their staff when they are looking to hire FP&A or any financial management staff. Okay. Now, here's an interesting statistic for you. We did a CFO survey, okay, and 79% of the CFOs said that it is generally difficult to find the right FP&A talent. We live in a time where everybody is looking for experienced FP&A professionals. You look at the job profiles, you look at the job descriptions of FP&A on LinkedIn, every 5-10 years experience. Okay, but there are not enough experienced FP&A professionals out there who have the right or relevant experience. Okay, so what can be done? We have seen that anything, any qualification, any certification, any training that you do on FP&A today attracts a lot of attention on your resume, and it will at least take you to an extent where you'll get that call. And then how you perform in the interview is completely up to you. But FP&A certifications are making that mark for you to at least grab that attention of that recruiter on your resume. Yeah. Sorry, there's some comment in the chat box.
We can take the questions at the end if you want.
Yes. Yes.
We'll get to the questions in.
Yes, we'll get to the questions.
Yes.
Cool. Sounds good. Yeah. So any certification that you do on FP&A is sure to get attention on the resume. Yeah. And so what can be done about this? So we at FP&A Professionals Institute, so we have come up with our own certification program called Certified Global FP&A Professional Program. Okay. What Asif and I have done is that we've spoken to a few CFOs. We have our own experience. Asif has worked in 3 or 4 different sectors. I've worked in 3 or 4 different sectors. So we have compressed our 20 years of experience into this one solid program called Certified Global FP&A Professional Program. How does this work? It's a certification. It's a global certification. You can directly learn from CFOs and finance leaders. There are 10 comprehensive modules, which we'll talk about in a while. All of these sessions are 100% practical design. No, so we don't cover theory. We don't cover what is FP&A. It's an executive program. You're expected to read all of that and come to the classroom. We'll directly start with case studies, simulations, and a lot of it is experiential learning. We expose you to certain situations. We expose you to certain cases. Right? Even in this webinar that you saw, in the beginning, you directly got into the role, right? So you directly got into the role, you directly got into the character and started analyzing, right? So that's how most of our training programs are designed, where we are giving you practical exposure with certain case studies. Yeah. You'll also get a personalized career coach. You'll get personal sessions with Asif and me. You'll get placement support. I'm saying support in the sense that we'll help you refine your resume. We'll help you refine your LinkedIn profiles, anything that increases your chances of getting that FP&A role. Right? Plus, there'll be monthly Q&A sessions. The support will always be there. WhatsApp support. You'll be part of our alumni community. You'll have online access to all the materials and resources. We keep bringing in top CFOs, FP&A leaders from various organizations into our guest sessions and experiential sessions. We try and conduct 1 guest session every month on an average. So all of this is part of the CGFPA program that solidifies your understanding and gives you that practical confidence to go out and work in that FP&A team. Yeah. So what does CGFPA program consist of? What are some of the modules that are covered in the CGFPA program? So if maybe you can take up the first 5 modules and then I'll come to the second part of it.
Yes. So again, I'll go back to the core skills that we discussed about 5 minutes back. So the entire CGFPA program is based on those core skills. I'll quickly talk about the modules on the left. Budgeting, forecasting, we do budgets and forecasts in detail using different approaches, top down, bottom up, zero-based, incremental, and most of the exercises are very practical. We do make you do all the different components of a budget, from the revenue budget to production budget, COGS budget, marketing budget, admin budget, headcount and salary budget. So most of the different types of kinds of budget that are practically prepared in most industries, you will get a practical exposure to all of those using Excel files and using real life looking case studies. Management reporting is another key part of our program. We look at more than 10 different types of common management reports that FP&A people usually prepare, including your month-end reports, flash reports. We cover performance management frameworks, including KPIs, balance scorecards. And all of this is done through, again, real life case studies, simulations, and group discussions in the class. So that when you go back or when you go to your FP&A roles, you are able to do this confidently and you are able to apply this whatever you've learned in the certification. Next, I'll come to financial modeling. Also, we talked about financial modeling. So it's specifically for FP&A. We so there was one question in the chat box on financial modeling. Maybe I'll cover this along with that, right? So is financial modeling a financial statement analysis, or it goes beyond the three statement modeling? So financial statement analysis is basically your analysis of P&L, balance sheet, and cash flow statement, and being able to prepare the three statement financial model. So that is the basic. We start with that. The first session will be on that, but after that we get into core FP&A concepts relating to financial modeling. Some of them I can just give examples. How do you do scenario planning? How do you create sensitivity? How do you do sensitivity analysis? And more. So the three statement financial model is a starting point, and then we go into deeper concepts, including how do you build revenue models? How do you do different types of revenue models using Excel and using tools? So that is what we cover in financial modeling. And we very recently, just from cohort 3, which is the last cohort, we added the AI for finance and FP&A module in the CDFP program, where we now cover how do you use AI tools, which are tools like ChatGPT, Microsoft Copilot, Google Gemini, in your day-to-day applications using very specific finance and FP&A cases. So everything that we do in Excel during the course, whatever we can do using AI, we also share the similar examples and we make you look at it. Okay, this is how you did in Excel manually. This took you 2 hours. Now the same thing can be done using Copilot or using ChatGPT, and it'll take only 10 minutes. So that is what is covered in the AI for finance and FP&A module. For the other modules, I'll hand it over back to Dhaval and he can cover the ones on the right side.
Thanks, Asif. So in all your FP&A roles, one thing that will be common is that you will always be dealing with a lot of data. Right? So that's why the basics of data analysis is what we introduce you to. Data analysis concepts, basics of Power BI, basics of SQL, all of that is covered in data analysis. And then comes financial analysis. So financial analysis is of two types, right? So one is your external financial analysis, which is your ratio analysis, your debt equity ratio, your PE ratio, all of those things. But here, the financial analysis that we cover is also internal oriented. So which means that how do you look at the company from an internal standpoint, right? So your horizontal analysis, your vertical analysis, all of that is covered in the financial analysis module. Then storytelling and presentations, how do you improve your storytelling skills? How do you improve your presentations, especially when you're communicating with non-finance staff? How do you make use of labels? How do you make use of simple strategies that will communicate your insights to the business teams? Then comes strategy. No strategic decision in the company is complete without sound financial analysis, right? So in the strategy module, we cover all those strategic concepts and frameworks where FP&A has a role to play, right? Any strategic decision to be taken in the company. Let's say, for example, I want to launch a product, right? Can this be done without having sound financial analysis, right? That can still be a strategy, but it is incomplete without backing it with a sound financial analysis. So all those elements where strategy is intersecting with, also FP&A is intersecting with different strategic frameworks or decisions. That's what we covered in the strategy module. And then comes business partnering, your business acumen, building relationships with the teams. How do you partner with various teams like HR, operations? All of these things is covered in the business partnering module. Again, everything through 100% practical case studies and instances that we share from our own personal experiences, right? So these are the 10 solid modules that will make you a strong FP&A professional, probably will train you everything that you require to work in FP&A. Now, what is the eligibility for this particular program? What we expect you to have is at least a bachelor's degree or an equivalent in finance and accounting business. Even better if you have a professional qualification like a CA, CPA, CMA, although not an absolute necessity. But if you have these qualifications, then it will be better. Okay, what we are doing at CGFPA is that we don't claim to be a substitute for your base qualification like a CA, CPA, CMA. We are always a supplement to your existing financial and accounting qualification, because a lot of it is practical based and these qualifications are unable to deliver those kind of case studies and analysis that are practically important in your career, right? And how is the certification awarded to you? There are two things that are compulsory. One is your attendance in the live online classes. Every Saturday, if we meet for 2 hours, right? That's the only commitment that we ask for. live classes, at least 50% of the classes should be completed live. You should be attending the Zoom classes online live and submit the assignment or capstone. So these two completions will allow you to give the final examination, which is an objective type examination, multiple choice questions. And after that examination, you will be awarded the CGFPA program as well. So we are also accredited by CPD. So you will be able to get or claim the CPD credits for completion of the CGFPA program as well. So what is for a program like this, which has a great future and a lot of demand for FP&A right now. So I leave the ROI to your imagination, but the fee investment in this program is $1,495. The duration is 6 months. It's all recorded sessions, live sessions, and then there'll be some recorded pre-reading work that you will be required to do. A total weekly commitment of 3 to 4 hours, 2 hours of live training programs every Saturday for 2 hours. And then probably 1 to 1.5 hours of your own investment is required in terms of doing the pre-reading or doing the homework or the case readings that we give it to you, MBA style. So you're required to do some homework and then come to the classroom to discuss and analyze or discuss and come to a conclusion of the case studies as well. So the next cohort is starting on 22nd March 2025. That is the date of induction of the next week, every Saturday live for 2 hours. So March 22nd. 2025 is the next cohort, and this is cohort 4. 3 cohorts are, 1 cohort is already completed. Cohort 2 and 3 are, 3 is just started, and then 2 is nearing completion now. And cohort 4 will start from 22nd March 2025. You don't need to take our word for it. You can reach out to any of our students. There are dozens and dozens of testimonials. We have only captured some of them on the screen. All these students have taken our CGFPA program. A couple of them even transitioned to FP&A roles immediately after they completed the program. Like, for example, Rohit ended up in an FP&A role. Farhan got transitioned to an FP&A role within the company, right? Vandana was able to implement certain new reports that she learned in the CGFPA program in her existing organization, which is a large data center company. So there are tons and tons of cases like this, and we are absolutely enthusiastic about helping our alumni and keeping them active.
Dhaval, we have one alumni here as well in the session.
Oh, wonderful.
So I'll let you guess who that is, but we can continue.
Okay, I didn't notice that. Yes, yeah, probably I'm not able to see my chat box, but yeah, cool. Sounds good. So there are dozens and dozens of testimonials. So we've only captured some of them here. So you may reach out to any of them on LinkedIn and check for a feedback. So yes, so that's what we are here to discuss. I hope you got some taste of working in FP&A. Let me definitely tell you one thing, that FP&A roles are in high demand, right? So, but don't expect FP&A things to, or FP&A concepts to automatically come to you just because you have an accounting qualification or just because you're a chartered accountant. It will not automatically come to you. Okay. And back when, probably 15 years ago when Asif and I started, there was no online courses, there was no LinkedIn, there was no online coaching, and there was no internet revolution, right? So how we learned about FP&A is by asking our seniors, and if they are in a good mood, they will teach us. If not, then we learn with our own mistakes. But thankfully, we live in the age of online courses. We live in the age of coaching programs. Take benefit of it, and Asif and I are there always to support you guys. Just a quick reminder that the applications for the first round of cohort 4 closes on 22nd of February, which is tomorrow. Whether you decide to do the course or no, I leave it to you, but just make sure that you at least complete your applications so that you are still eligible for any early bird offers that we will be launching. Cool. So that's a quick reminder. So the early bird applications close on 22nd February. The details, Asif will share them in the chat box, and you can go ahead and download the brochure as well and go ahead and complete the application as early as possible.
I've dropped in a couple of links, I think 3 links. One is the CGFPA detailed page that you can explore. Then there is a detailed brochure also which you can download. And then if you feel this is the right program for you, then you can also make an application, which is the application link also shared in the chat box.
Amazing. That's what we had to share today. So I hope you got a good glimpse of how is it like to work in FP&A. And I'm sure all of you must be having some questions. We still have about 10-15 minutes as per schedule, so we can take some questions. We're happy to answer any questions that you might have about the program or generally about FP&A or anything that you might want to ask about. Cool. There were a couple of mentions in the chat box. Let me see if I can dig through them. Yeah, so there was a comment that every other FP&A job, a first attempt chartered accountant or a CPA. True to some extent, but we have seen a lot of people who are not CAs or CPAs, but they are working in FP&A. Some companies insist on it, some companies don't. It really depends on the kind of setup that you're operating in, but it's not an absolute must. And we have seen dozens and dozens of people work in FP&A who do not have a chartered accountancy or a CPA.
What I would say is people trust the CA and those certification you mentioned because they don't have any other option, right? So if you give them other options like a FP&A certification, or if you can convince them in an interview that you know FP&A concepts and you've learned that extensively, then that is something that can be most likely they can ignore that if you can convince them in the interview that you are good with FP&A skills. So a lot of companies do that because they usually trust those certifications so that they know that those are good quality candidates.
And these certifications took 100 years to build their reputation, right? And all these organizations like CMA, CPA are all 100 years old. So it takes time for acceptance of new certifications. I don't want to promise anything, but one thing that we are, Asif and I are definitely working on in the background is to try and connect with a lot of organizations, recruiters to help increase the acceptance of the CGFPA certification.
Awesome. So thank you so much, everybody, for joining, and hopefully we'll see you in one of the courses that we do or in one of the webinars in the next few weeks. Thank you so much. Thank you for joining, and have a good rest of your Friday and the weekend. Thanks. Bye.
Thanks, everybody. All the best.